So let me start this video by saying that I absolutely love my Quest 2. This thing is amazing. It's magical and has brought me so much joy throughout the years. I think it's one of the best things that happened to VR in a long time, especially for the gamers out there. The fact it's completely standalone, portable, easy to use, streams PC games, and it being quite cheap has definitely helped us getting closer to VR going mainstream. We could have a huge discussion about its hardware, but in my opinion, it's still great. Besides rare moments of having to deal with a slow mobile app, an unstable Quest menu, and your play space or tracking acting drunk like it had an overdose of Sweet Baby Ray's, it's still going strong. It continues to surprise us with new features such as the recent update of being able to invite your friends over to your Quest home environment and using its pass-through to play mixed reality experiences. In this day and age, I can still recommend you buying a Quest 2 despite it slowly starting to show its age in terms of, well, a form factor and also specs. Its mobile hardware still has a few tricks left, but something that I've been truly missing is content. I spent countless hours inside this headset and it's been by far my most used VR device yet, but for over a year now, it starts to feel like the Quest 2 is getting less and less outstanding games. Partly, this can be explained because of the pandemic we had, the current recession, Meta losing money and them being worried, very worried about Apple bringing their device to the market, and on top of that, we got the Quest 3, so maybe they're even holding titles back to release later. But on the other hand, Meta also doesn't seem to always know what to do with their gaming audience. Ever since the Quest 1 launched, we have seen them slowly shifting their focus towards fitness, enterprise, renaming the Oculus brand, and their metaverse project Horizon Worlds. I hate to say this, but quality gaming used to be high on the priority list of Meta, but has since dropped a few spots. Another reason is that Meta has almost a complete monopoly on VR right now, and it's well deserved. They put the most money into it, and this is what they got in return. But it sometimes does look like they got too comfy in this position, not having to push that hard anymore with new games to stay relevant. Now, with PlayStation VR 2 on the way, I have a feeling this is going to change. Meta and Sony are both aiming for the next pancake gamer who's interested in buying a VR headset, meaning healthy competition has finally arrived. That hopefully will grow the ecosystem of developers that want to work on a VR project, driving innovation, motivating hardware manufacturers to invest more money in content, and giving a boost to the overall quality of games across the entire VR market. For me personally, what excites me about VR is experiencing the future of gaming, being able to literally step into a video game. Unique mechanics and stories that stand out are what keep me immersed and invested into virtual reality. So if Sony and Meta can both give me that, then that's amazing news. While I still look forward to seeing games like GTA San Andreas, Batman, Hello Neighbor, Behemoth, Stranger Things, and Ghostbusters making it to the Quest 2, I also can't wait to start exploring some of these and Sony's own titles on PSVR 2. Since it's wired and powered by the PlayStation 5, it's of course able to run far more impressive games. If you own a Quest, you know that most of the titles being sold nowadays are smaller scope games that you can finish in about an hour or two. Sports games, party games, tech demo feeling projects, lazy ports, and more casual types of genres seem to be somewhat the standard. Don't get me wrong, there have been exceptions in the past like Gorilla Tag, Resident Evil 4, Breachers, Bone Lab, Iron Man, Blade and Sorcery, Medal of Honor, Red Matter, and The Walking Dead VR, but we're simply not getting enough of those. Unless social VR or online FPSs are your go-to, it can be hard to find something to play that you can enjoy for a while. I could be totally wrong here, but I don't expect this to happen on the same scale with PlayStation VR 2 as its predecessor, the PSVR 1, started and most importantly ended with a strong lineup of games. On average, it had a consistent release of titles that really made it worth picking up over the years. PlayStation VR featured larger scope titles, unique indies, longer playtime overall, deeper and more memorable stories, advanced gameplay mechanics, complex level design, and yes, beautiful graphics. I agree that it's still up to a developer to make the magic happen, so it doesn't automatically mean that with more power come better games. That's nonsense. Oh no, plus quality control from the hardware manufacturer's side plays an important role too. Being a proud owner of both a Quest and a PSVR, it always felt that the variety of game genres targeting different ages were more balanced on PSVR compared to that on Quest. Because despite the Quest 2 being for age 13 and up, we all know that kids love it. Its price is probably a big factor, but also popular releases like Among Us, Cosmonious High, Five Nights at Freddy's, Population 1, Gorilla Tag, Rec Room, Iron Man, the rumored launch of Roblox, have and are only going to grow this audience even more. Not that that's a bad thing, as this is the new generation who will adopt VR faster than any other age demographic. But it does partly result into an unbalanced library of titles that don't necessarily resonate with older crowds of gamers and have gradually lowered the bar of what some still call a decent VR game. Luckily, there is still Bone Lab, Real VR Fishing, The Walking Dead, PokerStars, Top Golf, VR Chat, and I could name a few others that have definitely proven that on Quest you can play titles that are for a wider audience. But yes, overall, I haven't really seen this cause a drastic trend break in terms of the audience who is most likely to buy a Quest 2. In case of PlayStation, it's known for being used by all ages, mainly because Sony's consoles have been in the hands of several generations of gamers, but also because of their rich marketing and trying to sell titles for the casual, hardcore gamer and everything that sits in between. I mean, if you are a racing nut, there is Gran Turismo, adventurers out there can play Horizon, Call of the Mountain, thrill seekers should dive into Switchback, when you are more into FPSs you got Firewall, and if you like scary and romantic stuff, there is Resident Evil Village. That's what PlayStation VR 2 is going for, and this is just the beginning. I'm so excited because Sony owns loads of IPs that they can bring to VR, and they also have many contacts in the game industry that they can summon if they really wanted to. Like Insomnia Games, who we know best for their work on Stormland and Edge of Nowhere. Oh, that game was so good. I know people hate exclusives, but with Spider-Man, The Last of Us, God of War, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, Killzone, Horizon, Shadow of the Colossus, Little Big Planet, and Sly Cooper, to name a few, Sony has built an amazing family of recognizable characters, gameplay, and stories that define what gaming is today and could help with what VR will be in the future. They already gave us a taster with Resident Evil, Horizon, and Gran Turismo, and I'm sure we are going to see a lot more of that throughout PSVR 2's lifecycle. Indies should be credited for being the backbone of VR. They deserve all the respect, but let's be honest, AAA games have proven to be a very successful tool to get the attention of the general gaming scene and persuading them to try VR. With the recent and surprising announcement of Beat Saber launching on PSVR 2, I hope that Meta and Sony will be sharing and trading more game exclusives, as this is beneficial to a healthy ecosystem. And with Sony's new PC division, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the PC VR scene is going to benefit from this too. It's clear that Sony has a huge portfolio, but Meta has also started to gather an impressive group of acquired and very experienced VR studios, such as Beat Games, Downpour Interactive, Twisted Pixel, Sensoru Games, Camouflage, Armature Studios, and my personal favorite, Ready at Dawn. Most of them are working on really cool projects, explaining why it's so awfully quiet around these companies. But that doesn't mean that Meta can't utilize them more. Sony is very good at constantly featuring their studios, but also independent indies with community updates, blog posts, doing video interviews, live streams, and highlighting older games or certain employees. They really show they are proud of who they work with, while at the same time demonstrating and using it as marketing to their hungry audience. They really care about delivering the best content. Something that's nice about Sony as well is that they are very smart about managing, bundling, marketing, and knowing what gamers want. For some reason, Meta always seems to want to release their best games in a cramped time window that more often than not hurts the individual game's discoverability. Sony has a history of spreading games out, with a usual roadmap telling you what to expect. Meta does host a showcase once a year, but you rarely get to hear when those games are coming out, and if you do, then there is a chance you have to wait an entire year. Let me tell you, perspective and consistency are key to keep a user base active, interested, entertained, and motivated to continue buying new games. With numerous state of plays, Sony has gotten very aware of this, being cautious about what they show. Meta seems to do the opposite, having teased GTA San Andreas, Assassin's Creed, and the now cancelled Splinter Cell too early. At first this looked like a solid strategy, as us hungry Quest users were begging Meta for more content and kinda got what we wanted, at least we know what's coming, but with these projects being so far away, it only creates frustration and a certain sense of disappointment among the Quest 2 community. Now, dry seasons of not many game releases, and we had many of those, is something that no doubt will also hit PlayStation VR 2. I wouldn't be surprised Sony tries to fall back on their rich library and cycles them in the form of bundles and deals, making it feel like those games just came out, but I'm not sure if that's enough. Another card I can see them play is bring a lot of the first-gen classics to PlayStation VR 2. Titles like Static, Skyrim, Farpoint, Blood and Truth, Robinson, Moss, The Persistence, Ace Combat 7, Iron Man, Borderlands, and Astrobot could definitely be reintroduced. Time will tell if that can keep the retention high, as the Quest 2 is already suffering from this. This continues to be VR's biggest challenge. Retention is one of the main factors why some Quests and PSVRs will end up on a shelf or be sold to someone else. Talking about a second life though, there is a chance that the games you buy on PlayStation VR 2 are going to be cheaper than on Quest 2. In case you own or are interested in buying a PS5 with a disc drive, you can purchase physical game copies, meaning you can not only hunt down the best deals online, but also in stores and second-hand markets. On Quest, you can only own everything digitally and it's going to be stuck with you personally, since it's linked to a Facebook or Meta account, so you're not allowed to just sell it. On PlayStation VR 2, this is going to be far easier, as you can share your physical games with friends and sell them whenever you want. So let's say you ever wanted to get rid of your PSVR 2 because a new headset is coming out, like the Quest 3 or something else, you can make a buck back with additional games on offering. Another possible way of saving money is by getting PlayStation Plus. In the PSVR 1 era, this was always super useful, as you would get to check out the best VR games only a few months after their release. The only downside is that without it, you can't go online, something I will never be able to understand as a PC enthusiast myself. As I'm from Europe, or to be more precise, the gorgeous Hollandland, I noticed that Meta is being very focused on the North American and Japanese audience, while Sony aims for the worldwide market. I've never had an issue accessing my games or entertainment on their platform, as they have a store for each country and/or region. On Quest 2, you bump into stuff for Americans only all the time, like Supernatural, their entertainment offerings, and even Horizon Worlds, Meta's main social platform, still being geo-blocked for me since launch. Sony seems to try to go for a far more personalized approach. Their social media, marketing campaigns, events, and sometimes even game launches are adapting to the region you are in, making you feel appreciated as a customer. With Quest 2's hardware slowly showing its age, I can't wait to see what Meta is going to do with their Quest 3. I hope they are going to, of course, bring us loads of games, but also upgrade the form factor and specs. That's what it desperately needs. If it doesn't launch at the end of 2023, it will be early next year. I'm saying that because you never know what's going to happen in the world. There could be another random pandemic or some shortages, I don't know anymore. Nothing surprises me at this point. Let's just keep our fingers crossed it's happening around the holiday season this year. While PlayStation VR 2 on paper has better specs than Quest 2, I wouldn't say it's fair to compare them, as these are two total different devices. PSVR 2 does have a few features that may feel tempting to try though, like the haptics built into the controllers, for example. The PSVR 2 Sense controllers not only rumble, but also have adaptive feedback, giving you a sensation of tension. This means you have to put a bit more effort into interacting with the world around you, but it does make it feel more realistic. As an extra, it has haptics built into the head strap as well, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's a life-changing experience. Now, the built-in eye tracking is a total different story. The PlayStation VR 2 makes use of foveated rendering. This is a technique used to reduce the rendering workload by greatly reducing the image quality in the peripheral vision. This pretty much means it improves the overall performance and allows developers to push it to the limit. What may be more interesting is that with your eyes you can scroll through, for example, weapon wheels, select stuff in the menu while gazing, characters looking you straight into the eyes, making your own avatar more lifelike in social games, and certain events only triggering when you look at them. If we talk portability, you could technically bring your console and PSVR to a friend's house, but it's simply not as easy as putting a Quest 2 in your backpack. It's really a device for home use. Before I forget, we could have a big debate about it being wired, but honestly, this is a very personal thing. I can understand why people see it as a huge deal breaker, while others don't. Since most of the games I play are standing experiences and I grew up with headsets being wired anyways, I'm used to automatically stepping over them when I turn. Not saying wireless isn't great, but since this long single cable is the core reason why I can play all these amazing games, I'm fine with it. I buy headsets for the games, not the other way around. Content is king in my eyes, and if PlayStation VR 2 can entertain me while I wait for Quest 3, I'm happy to do so. And that's why the decision to sell your Quest for a PlayStation VR 2 is something I leave up to you. For some, it might be a good investment to move towards a more advanced VR system, getting to play quite an impressive lineup of games and buying into a future unknown, while others will stick with their Quest 2 till the Quest 3 rears its head. Fair enough. Some will get both, and we should not forget others in a less lucky position who have simply no choice to make as the recession has shifted their priorities. Either way, we are one big family. If someone starts to get interested in VR or in the end buys a headset, it's a win-win for us all. I will keep my Quest 2 since I still have good hopes that it will surprise us with some new and great games. But I also can't wait to play on my PlayStation VR 2. And that's where I want to end this video. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in, of course, the metaverse, the one that is owned by us all.